Married at First Sight, season 18, episode 10. Do you know what today is? It's our anniversary. In this episode, the cast celebrated, or rather acknowledged, they've been technically married for 1 month. By the way, there was no after party this week. Instead, they had a special episode called The Journey So Far with Kevin Frazier, which I did not watch 1 second of, and I'm not sorry. Hi, I'm Tamara, and this is Tamara Lynette Tells. This episode was a hot mess. The group dinner got spicy. Plus, I have a little tea for you, an Instagram post Chi put up shortly after this episode. So let's start with them. Em and Chi. They started by celebrating their 1 month anniversary, but this was no celebration. Emem was posted up on the ground preparing a little sip and paint with charcuterie, and Chi comes rolling up with a big old frown on his face. The energy he was giving was so blah. It was very obvious that he was just there to film and not to build any kind of anything with Emem. They awkwardly painted while Chi gave Emem tips on how to paint a nightscape, and Emem was trying to stay positive and upbeat. Now, from what we were shown, he never smiled. He just looked mad. But it's the kind of mad where it looks like he had a lot to say but wasn't saying it. So after they were done, he had the nerve to say he enjoyed it. You did? When? He said this is something he would like to do more of, just doing activities and organically getting to know each other. So Emem asked, "Is this something you are actively trying to do?" And he just sat there and didn't answer the question, just sitting there all up in his feelings, mad. So finally he said, "Oh, sorry, I was getting something out of my teeth." Okay, really? Now you just playing games? So to the confessional, Cammy said, "Sometimes people don't like your answer, so they keep asking you questions, hoping you say what they would." I believe he really hates questions. I have a friend and an ex-boyfriend who were weird about questions. Now, based on things that Chi says, I think he views questions as being challenged, and I think he has a sprinkle of low self-esteem too. Like, I said what I said. Why are you digging deeper? You think I'm stupid and don't know how to say what I said when I was saying it? Anyway, so they went back to the apartment and producers had a goodie basket waiting for them. It was the standard wedding photo album, framed copies of their wedding vows, wine, and other stuff they didn't show us. So Emem was sitting on the couch and opening up the photo album while Chi was looking around trying to find the further seat away from Emem. So he ended up sitting in the kitchen basically. And Emem was like, you want to look at the photo album with me? And he shook his head and mumbled, yeah. But he didn't budge. He just sat there in the kitchen. So Emem had to turn at an angle so he could see the book from across the room over her shoulder, all weird and awkward, while he sat there with his bottom lip all poked out halfway looking at the pictures. So Emem pulled out their wedding vows and then asked if his vows still ring true to him. "I meant what I said when I said it." "Towards me?" "I meant what I said when I said it." She said that didn't really answer the question. "I wasn't trying to." He had such a bad attitude. Then he went off on her like a third grade teacher, saying stuff like, "You keep hitting me over the head with the answer stick." Answer stick? Okay, Mrs. Crabtree. "You don't like my answers, so you keep asking me questions. Keep hitting me on the head with the answer stick, hitting the bear. You'll see what happens. I'll give you these vows back, and that's what you can keep." Okay, but I don't think vows have a return policy, and handing her back the vows isn't really a threat. When I read your vows, I didn't see where you said you'll be an a-hole." I'm reading through the transcripts here, and so far, you're the only one being an a-hole, sir. So Emem paused for a second and said, "I'm going to respect that." "I'm not." Now, Emem was low key trying to call him out for not keeping his vows, but given Chi-Chi's dark mood, I don't think she should have gone there in that moment. However, I don't think the tongue lashing fit the crime, and he's a little too quick to call Emem out of her name for my taste. I don't think he's good at expressing his feelings in a productive way. I suspect he's feeling attacked, and he's attacking her back when what he should say is, "I feel like you're attacking me." and said he's having a full-on fight with the answer stick, but there's just one problem. There is no answer stick. So Emem just sat there and got cussed out over the imaginary answer stick. Then he just walked out of the apartment. She ended up going into the bedroom and started crying. It would have taken a lot for me to sit there and be called an a-hole on national TV and not respond. Emem did a good job of holding her tongue. I actually think she was crying because it was bleeding. She had all her teeth on her tongue to hold back her words. Later, we see her in bed, and she said it was 10 o'clock at night. I guess she and Chi-Chi got into it again because she said she stormed out, and she's been texting him, and he hasn't replied. So she's not sure if he's going to come back. In the meantime, they scrolled the text messages she sent Chi-Chi on the screen. Here's what she wrote. I'm going to be home a little later tonight and allow you some space. I'm going to be quiet coming in and try not to disturb you. I'm going to go to my place tonight. If you feel like talking at any point, please reach out. I've called you twice. I don't know what to do at this point. Good morning. I hope you got some rest last night. I would like you to come back home, but understand if you don't want to. My intention was not to upset you. Are you going to speak to me today? I do want to talk to you. Not gonna lie, it sounds like she said something she regrets and is trying to talk to him about it, like maybe even apologize. Now, I know enough about reality TV to understand they tend to create characters out of these people and can edit things out or cut and paste pieces of conversations to mislead us and serve the narrative producers want us to believe. If Chi-Chi treated her so bad, why is she the one blowing up his text messages, apologizing, and offering to give him space? I'm not saying he's not guilty, but I'm not sure she's completely innocent. Later, she did say he came by to pick up his shoes. He walked in, said hi, grabbed the shoes, and left. More about them later. Michelle and David. We see Michelle getting ready by herself, and she's preparing to celebrate their 1-month anniversary as if she gave a dime about her so-called marriage. Anyway, she was so proud of herself because she styled her hair similar to the way it was on her wedding day. Plus, she wore the same earrings she wore on her wedding. I don't know who she was trying to impress by recreating looks from her wedding. Certainly not David. Maybe a cameraman? Anyway, get this. She said David is at his parents' house, so I'm going to meet him at their house. Then they immediately cut to her walking into an empty restaurant where David is sitting there waiting for her. What happened to meeting at the parents' house? I don't know. That was weird. Anyway, she showed up and was a special kind of wonderful. And by wonderful, I mean rude. She immediately turned her nose up and asked, "Is that what you wear when you go on a date?" And he said, "Excuse me? Is that your date outfit?" He explained that he was coming from somewhere else. He had planned to go home to change his clothes, but due to traffic, it would have made him late. So he opted not to be late and came dressed as he was. So to the confessional cam, Michelle said, "I thought he would level it up a bit for our 1 month." You have your nerve. You have treated this man like crap. If the man showed up in a sport coat, button-up shirt, a fake Gucci belt, and skinny jeans, how would that change your narrative of not wanting him because he lives at home, doesn't have enough money, and is unattractive? Girl, ain't nobody at this table trying to impress you. Shut up and enjoy the sushi. With the same bad attitude, she asked David, "Is this where you thought we would be after 1 month?" That was a stupid question, but he answered it. And afterwards, she said, "Well, since you didn't ask me the same question, I'll just say I wasn't expecting to be in this situation either." Then she started a fight about him not asking her questions. "I always have to ask you the questions." Oh my God, girl. When he asked you if you were close to your family on your honeymoon, you were so rude. Why are you asking me that? Emem is catching hell for asking questions, and David is catching it for not asking questions. David said when he does ask questions, she gives vague answers like, "Okay, yep, okay." Then she asks, "Are you happy?" "Child, I'm sitting all the way over here and not happy. Ain't nobody happy with you." He said he's frustrated, and basically there's only so much more he can take of being rejected. She says, "I don't feel great about this, the marriage, because there's no connection. It's tough to move forward. And it's hard for me to say that." Is it though? Because you've been saying it in different ways since day one. She claims she's trying to participate in the marriage and just needs a little more time. It felt like she showed up to that dinner to pick a fight. Girl, just relax and enjoy the free food at this point. Calm down. So when they went back to the apartment, their goodie basket was there and she was all smiles looking at herself. David said her dress was really nice and she said, "I know, it was so pretty. I'm glad I picked that dress." Or, "Thank you." When someone compliments what you're wearing, the appropriate response is "thank you." But at least she had a lighter attitude by this point. She wasn't being so bratty. To the confessional camp, she said, "Dinner was heavy, but I don't want that to ruin the night. It is our 1 month anniversary." Girl, stop playing like you care about that. So they watched their wedding video. She was sitting there admiring herself while David was sitting back in the cut tearing up. I think he was crying because he had no idea all of his hopes and dreams that day would be flushed down the toilet after he told her he lives with his parents. So to the confessional cam, he said, if they stuck to their vows, they would have been fine. Like he knows what he can do. Now, they talked about needing to work on themselves, and Michelle was like, "I feel like we always talk about what I need to work on. What do you think you need to work on?" "I need to not talk so much, not talk over you or through you. After tonight's dinner, I realized I need to ask you questions, even if you ask me first." Wrong answer. To make this marriage work, you need to move out of your parents' house, stop smoking and cussing, have a wardrobe makeover, find better looking friends, ditch the man bun, and hit the lottery for $10 million. Madison and Allen. They looked through their wedding pictures. He kept complimenting her, and she just laughed and laughed. I think she laughs when she doesn't know what to say or is in an awkward situation. I've noticed she laughs in weird moments that don't call for laughing. Anyway, Alan asked if looking at the picture sparked anything for her. He's like, "Please, baby, please, can we get back to our wedding day where you kept kissing on me?" So she said, "I see why I felt the way I did back then, because I didn't know you." Ouch. In other words, if I knew you, I never would have been so excited that day and kissing all over you. Their scenes were boring. He's still infatuated by her. After she stands up from the couch, he's sniffing the seat cushions and whatnot. Just kidding. They played tennis and made a little wager before they started. She said, "If I win, you have to run a lap around the court, squat like a chicken while yelling, 'Madison is the champion.'" Really? Is that what you need to see to be turned on by him? That wasn't even funny. It sounded like mean girl hazing to me, not a 1 month anniversary request. So meanwhile, Alan said, "If I win, you have to give me a kiss." Okay, that's what I'm talking about. Can we make the wagers dignified, please? So he won the game. And when he asked for his kiss, she was like, "See, you weren't specific. You weren't specific. You failed to give specific. Give me your cheek." Alan was like, "Oh, man." Then she kissed him on the cheek. I mean, at the very least, she could have at least asked him to kiss her back on her cheek. But she didn't. Whatever. At this point, she's just here for the snacks. Now, later they went aerial tree climbing. It was basically an obstacle course in the trees. Now, Alan was worried about not being manly during the course, so he was trying to show confidence. Afterwards, she told him she appreciates his effort, and that's what she really appreciates about him, trying to force something nice to say. Or whatever, she's not into him, and he seems to be falling for her more and more. I think he's more infatuated with her, like he's never dated anyone who looks like her before. This episode did nothing to bring them closer. Madison is just running out the clock until decision day. Camille and Thomas. I can recap their scenes in like 2 minutes. They met up to play basketball and he was allegedly late. I say allegedly because I believe they're getting along really good. Therefore, producers decided to create conflict so their scenes won't be boring, but it didn't work. Boring. Anyway, as punishment for being late, Camille made him run like crazy, which caused him to pull his hammy again. They played basketball, and Camille's got game. She played basketball for 25 years. Now, later, they went to a distillery for a tasting and lesson in making drinks. They both took a turn in making a drink. They exchanged gifts. She gave Thomas a plaster kit people use to stick their hands in to make a little statue of them holding hands. And he gave her a red necklace because he likes her in red, and explained the store nearby didn't have the red one. So he had to drive far to a different store to find it, which is why he was late. Except I'm not buying that story. I doubt he went online, picked out the necklace, then drove to the store for that specific necklace. I suspect he went to the store, looked around, maybe asked for some advice on what to get her, and picked out that necklace. Then the producers told him to embellish the story to play into their narrative of him being late to basketball. Anyway, Camille did like the necklace, and she said she now felt bad for punishing him for being late and causing the pulled hammy. In 5 years, they both want to be more successful in their career and at least have one kid. This is the healthiest relationship she's been in, blah, blah, blah. And that sums up their scene. Karla and Juancho. Now, Juancho took her to some warehouse that he works at. I swear this guy has 8 jobs. I think he probably does a bunch of things to put money in his pocket. Nothing wrong with that. I'm just saying. So he told Karla they make furniture there, and he rambled on about being in charge of metals, and he's a managing partner, and he also does something with sales. It didn't make a bunch of sense, which is why producers pulled Karla aside to ask her, what does Juan do for a living? I think he works really hard. He oversees tools. He works really hard, has his laptop in his lap, really analytical, skateboards. He's strong. He's really strong. I love my little flower child, Karla. She is a character for sure. So she told Juancho, I have some exciting news. I left my job. I'm no longer at the salon. I realize I can't be managed. I think the feeling was mutual. Girl, how you gonna tell Mr. Bills are split 50-50 that you quit your job and live in a storage space? She's making David look like a baller. I would be pissed if they matched me with someone in her situation. Juancho used to be a model. Did the experts really believe he needed to go on this show to find someone without a job or home? I mean, of course, the experts probably didn't know she was going to move out of her apartment and quit her job after she got picked for the show, but it's still fun to blame them. Anyway, Juancho was not happy with this so-called exciting news. To the confessional cam, he said, you can be crazy, but you shouldn't be stupid. So he's wondering what her plan is. I'm excited that bigger and better things can come about. That's the message I'm getting from the universe. The message I'm getting from your husband is divorce, please. They went on a picnic for their 1 month celebration. Juancho was, of course, concerned about her not having a job. She said she would go to her clients' houses to do their hair. And while she had this extra time off, she was going to spend it at coffee shops and learning how to read tarot cards. Now, they talked about an opportunity she was offered to do hair in New York. I'm like, what? Okay, get it, Karla. Child, by the time Juancho was done drilling her about that situation, we learned she didn't have a plane ticket. She didn't know any dates of when she would be there, how long she would be there, or how much it would pay. It sounds like someone called her up and said, would you be interested in going to New York to do hair? And she said yes, and that was the end of the conversation. Juancho was never going to be attracted to Karla. The group dinner. Okay, so as usual, the show made arrangements for all of the couples to get together for dinner. Michelle said David wasn't going to be there because he couldn't get off work, and Emem is still pressing refresh on her phone, hoping to get a message from Chi-Chi. Meanwhile, he was not on the bus. So this was a different Emem than they've been showing us. The woman who quietly took the tongue lashing while being called an a-hole has left the building. She was airing her grievances, child. She talked about him putting her hand on his magic stick, him telling Dr. Pia he felt uncomfortable, this being his second time applying for the show. The rest of them claimed they didn't know, but I could swear he told the guys before they got married. In any case, she was spilling all of their tea. Everyone was Team Emem. I don't know if it's because they've gotten to know Chi Chi and they see what Emem sees, or if it was because he wasn't on the bus. Wancho said he thinks Chi Chi has some unresolved issues he needs to work on before he's ready for marriage. Now, Camille said Emem came in ready to be married, and everyone else has been very honest with what's going on with them in terms of like expressing their feelings. But Chi Chi has not and just needs to speak a speak. Now, when they got to the restaurant, Camille announced things are going good between her and Thomas, and Michelle said something under her breath about having sex. And they all laughed. Then Camille confessed and said, yes, we've had sex. Like everybody pretended to be surprised. The ladies have a group text. You know, she told them before she said it on camera. Then Chi Chi walked in and the circus began. I mean, you could tell by the way he walked in the room that he was choosing chaos. Someone said, where have you been? He said, chilling. A man with few words. Alan said, I hate to say it, but is that a reason to miss half the dinner? Chi Chi said, it is. Alan said, cheers, brother. Alan felt the attitude and tapped out like, I'm good. Y'all take it. Now to the confessional cam, Karla said, oh, shit's about to go down. Then David walked in and it was a completely different reception. Everyone was happy to see him. But then all eyes were back on Chi Chi. Everyone was asking him questions, which we know he hates. So they're trying to find out what is going on with him. And he immediately attacked Emem. I don't feel comfortable in my own home, and my wife makes me feel like shiz. That opened up a firestorm, and he got super defensive. I don't want to discuss my marriage with you guys. I really don't. Dude, you're taping a TV show about your marriage. That's all you're supposed to talk about. Clearly, you don't understand the assignment. Michelle said, why did you come then? I could leave. Please do. Please do. Nobody came here to deal with you and your steak attitude. So the room was tense. All the women wanted a piece of Chi Chi, and David tried to take the intensity down a notch. Hey, this should be discussed behind closed doors. And Chi Chi was like, thank you. Thank you, nothing. You can't go on a TV show and be quiet. Anyway, Wancho was telling Emem and Chi Chi to be positive. Like, it's hard to approach a relationship with positivity, but that's what you need to do. At first, Emem started talking to Chi Chi, directing her comments towards Wancho. My husband called me an a-hole on our 1 month anniversary. And Wancho started to interrupt. She said, no, listen. My husband called me an a-hole on our 1 month anniversary. So I don't have much positivity to give. In this marriage, I've been called aggressive, a pariah, and an a-hole. Then she turned to Chi Chi. I've been calling and texting you for 2 days, and you haven't replied. And he said, you haven't called or texted me. Now, we saw the receipts earlier of her texting him, so we know that's not true. So he said, you haven't called or texted me. You're an effing liar. You're lying. And Karla hopped in and said, let's go to the restroom. So all of the ladies popped up from the table while Emem stormed out saying, bring me a clown and you're going to get a circus. Oh, how the tables have turned. Before Chi Chi looked like the one who flies off the handle at poor little Emem. She's no docile, innocent flower after all, but she's not necessarily wrong either. I would have been mad at the way Chi Chi presented himself too. Now, after the ladies walked out, Chi Chi was like, see what I mean? That's why I asked you all not to talk about it here. He's trying to play the victim, but he's the one who walked in the room like a boxer at a weigh-in before the fight, like ready to talk shiz. Now, meanwhile, in the restrooms, the ladies were mad at Chi Chi and trying to pump Emem up. And Karla gave her some good advice. No man is worth letting you lose your class over. Keep it classy. That's right. Keep it classy, girl. Yeah, I know I'm a hypocrite. Meanwhile, back at the table, Chi Chi apologized to Alan for his snarky remarks. So my word, not his. So as soon as the ladies came back to the table, Chi Chi got up and walked out. So the producer asked him why he was leaving. He said, I don't want to play games with a kid. This is childish. I didn't come here for games. I'm not everybody's cup of tea, but I'm somebody's Hennessy and Coke. Okay, can we make one statement that doesn't sound like a 1980s one-hit wonders song lyric, please? So get this, they edit Emem telling the group that he initiated physical touch, while at the same time, Chi-Chi is outside telling the producer, she's been on me since day one. Before I could ask her for a kiss at the altar, she shoved her tongue down my throat. I'm cool with walking away. There's the divorce table. What table? You're on the sidewalk. Talk normal for once. So Emem got upset and had to take a break in the restroom again. This time, only Camille went with her. And Camille was like, he tries to come off as this woke man, but calling you aggressive right out the gate is breaking rule number one. Emem said he knew what he was doing. He thought he would get someone less educated that will allow him to get away with that. Then she started shaking her shoulders. But they brought him a woman with an education, a woman with a master's degree, a woman who owns a business. He's trying to tear me down. Now, meanwhile, David had to go to work, so he gave all the men love, hugged Karla and Madison, but we didn't see him acknowledge Michelle with a goodbye or whatever, but that may have just been edited out. Now, on the van ride home, Chi-Chi once again was the topic of discussion, and Michelle said, I don't want to talk about him since he's not here, but Chi-Chi came in with a chip on his shoulder. We only got to see a sliver of his personality. I can't imagine what you go through. Okay, well, so much for not talking about him behind his back. So through the confessional cam, Emem said, I don't know why he showed up to dinner. He does things to get big responses, but I felt like this was a big FU. I think he showed up to dinner on time, but producers had him stay back so the cast could talk about him, then come for him when he walked in late. Like similar to the playbook they ran with Thomas in this episode. Anyway, later they showed Chi-Chi moving out of the apartment, and what he said sounds like he's projecting to me. I can't do it anymore. I can't be with someone who feels like I'm smaller than them, belittles me, insults me, and thinks they're smarter than me. The way you treat me, your attitude is who you are. Everything he just accused Emem of is what we've seen him do to Emem. Insults her by calling her out of her name, doesn't take responsibility for his part in their physical touch. Remember, he's Mr. I can't wait for the duck-offs during the honeymoon, and he was all over her too. Now, when Emem got home and saw he packed up to the confessional cam, she said he was difficult to deal with. Like the way he treated her, especially since she's done nothing but try to get to understand him. She ended up breaking down in tears. I believe these two are toxic together, and I think they bring out the worst in each other. I think Chi-Chi needs to work on his self-esteem and communication. And honestly, I believe the reason he feels like Emem made him feel small is because he feels less than. When you have a high self-esteem, someone you barely know can talk down to you all day and not even come close to cracking the code of learning what it takes to make you feel small. And the problem he has with questions also falls under low self-esteem. He didn't only lash out at Emem for asking questions. He got an attitude with Dr. Pia when she asked questions, and he barked at the entire cast when they were asking him questions in this episode. To me, it looks like he sees questions as an attack on his intelligence. You don't like my answer, so you keep asking me questions. No, sir, I don't understand your answer, so I'm asking for clarity. There's a difference. Now, meanwhile, we're not being shown enough of what Emem is doing wrong in this relationship. I feel like she was calling and texting him because she said some ugly things the night she stormed out and wanted the chance to explain now that she's calm. I do believe she was so excited about being married that she missed the huge warning signs Chi-Chi gave her as he was getting turned off by her not making him chase her just a little bit. From day one, she was like, come take me to bed. I'm yours. I think Chi-Chi was extremely turned off by her being ready to have sex so easily with him. Now, that works for some men, but not all, especially if she wants them to see her as a wife and not a hit it and quit it. But I don't believe she deserved all the name calling and pissy attitude he displayed throughout this episode. I am glad these two were done. They were just torturing each other. And finally, as promised, I'm going to share the post Chi-Chi put up after he left the apartment. I'd rather be old, single, and happy than miserably married. It's not your job to tell a man that you're the one for him. It's God's. Shout out to MazFan for sharing these posts. Now, that second one is interesting because it could also be twisted. Did MM straight up insist that she's the one for him? Or did she say it, but in the context of all the women who applied to be on the show, both the experts and I feel like I was the one for you. Like, give us a chance. Keep hope alive. What do you think about this couple? Whose side are you on? Let me know in the comments. In the meantime, that's all I have for now. Thanks for hanging out with me, and I'll see you in my next video.